In the heart of Europe, a barrier stood for nearly 3 decades, not just of concrete and wire, but of ideology, politics, and fear. The Berlin Wall, a symbol of the Cold War, was more than a structure. It was a chasm, dividing families, separating nations, and standing as the starkest representation of a divided world. On August 13th, 1961, the wall was erected almost overnight, as the Soviet-backed government in East Germany sought to stem the tide of emigration to the West. In the wake of World War II, Europe found itself split into two hostile factions: the Democratic West, supported by the United States and its NATO allies, and the Communist East, under Soviet control. Berlin, a city once at the heart of Nazi power, became the epicenter of this global standoff. For the next 28 years, Berlin was a city trapped between two worlds. The wall became a prison for nearly 17 million East Germans, their hopes of freedom crushed by barbed wire and armed soldiers. Families were torn apart. Dreams of reunification seemed as distant as the stars. But change was coming. By the late 1980s, the Soviet Union, under Mikhail Gorbachev, began to reform. The winds of political change sweeping across Eastern Europe couldn't be ignored. In East Germany, citizens had grown tired of oppression. A growing sense of unrest was felt across the country. People began to demand their freedom, their rights, and most importantly, the opportunity to reunite with loved ones on the other side of the wall. Then, on November 9th, 1989, a series of confusing events set the stage for a momentous change. In a press conference, an East German government spokesperson mistakenly announced that travel restrictions to the West were being lifted, effective immediately. What was meant to be a bureaucratic misstep turned into an invitation for millions of East Berliners to rush toward the wall. Within hours, what seemed impossible became a reality. Berliners from both the East and West surged toward the wall. In a moment of unprecedented unity, they began to tear it down piece by piece. The wall, which had stood as an unyielding symbol of division, was crumbling beneath the weight of hope, determination, and the longing for freedom. That night, the impossible had been achieved. The wall that had separated families, communities, and ideologies was no more, but what came next was even more profound: the reunification of Germany and the beginning of the end for the Soviet influence in Eastern Europe. The fall of the Berlin Wall didn't just mark the reunification of Germany, it was the beginning of the collapse of communism in Eastern Europe. Over the next few years, regimes would fall, and the Soviet Union itself would dissolve, signaling the end of the Cold War. The ripple effect was felt across the world. Nations that had once lived in fear of Soviet domination now found themselves free to choose their own path. For millions, the fall of the Berlin Wall was not just the end of a divided Germany, but the end of an era defined by ideological conflict, mistrust, and division. Today, Berlin stands as a symbol of unity and resilience. The wall may be gone, but its story is etched into the very fabric of this city. And though the world has changed since that fateful night in 1989, the lessons of the wall's fall remain as relevant as ever. Freedom is precious, unity is powerful, and walls, whether physical or ideological, can fall. For those who live through it, the fall of the Berlin Wall remains a powerful reminder of what can happen when people rise together, overcoming division in the pursuit of freedom. And in every brick that remains, the story of hope, struggle, and triumph endures.